What is 16? Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. So we would like, if it's okay with the board, to make a bit of a change to the agenda. And before we reorganize, we would like to do the honorary diplomas. Everybody okay with that? All right, then we'll turn it over to Matt Smith.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For those of you that don't know, the district does have a board policy. It's 9800 high school diplomas to veterans, which allows the district to award diplomas to veterans who meet certain conditions. And tonight, it's really an honor and a privilege to be able to be part of awarding 2 diplomas, along with our board president, to Michael and Daniel Willicat, who both attended Pulaski High School. Danny was here in 58 and 59, ended up transferring and going to Vietnam. He worked for a number of years as an electrician. He also wrote a book called Swamico, The Fishing Village, amongst other things. And his younger brother, Mike, was here in 61 and 62. Similar story, transferred, served in Vietnam. Both of them completed their GEDs, went on to have family lives, productive lives in employment. Michael worked as both a truck driver and for the Teamsters Union for over 20 years. And he wrote a book called God or Indian Chief, Growing Up in Small Town Swamico Village, or Swamico, Wisconsin. I can say as a former English teacher, they both made their English teachers proud right now. So, it's really an honor and a privilege to be able to present them with honorary diplomas from Pulaski High School, and want to thank them for their service. So. Welcome to the class of 2025.
That's a great one.
We're going to take just a few minute break and get some pictures here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We haven't had supper yet, so we're gonna split.
Oh my, I enjoyed you. I did have supper. Yeah.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we will get back to our reorganization. At this time, I'll entertain nominations for a temporary chairperson.
I'll nominate Allison Space as temporary chairperson.
A second.
Okay. Well, as your chairperson to start the proceedings of the reorganization of the board tonight, at this time I will entertain nominations for board president.
I nominate Jen Schwartz.
Okay, the chair recognizes Heidi Bukovich has nominated Jen Schwartz. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Heidi Melzer.
The chair recognizes that Heidi Melzer has also been nominated. And now we will need to go to ballot.
You can do, it's up to you guys if you want to do a voice vote, and if we have a majority, we can do that, unless you want to go right to ballot.
Ballot's fine. Anybody need a pen? Everyone's got pens?
Ready.
I just want to do a parliamentary check. Do I need to have a second to close the nominations now?
There wasn't a motion to close nominations, but I'm assuming that it is closed.
Okay.
We have a majority. Your new president will be Heidi Melzer.
Okay, at this time then I'll turn the meeting over to Heidi.
At this time, I'll entertain a nomination for vice president.
I nominate Dennis Kaminsky.
Anyone else? Hearing no other nominations, Dennis Kaminsky is elected by unanimous consent. At this time, I will entertain a motion for clerk.
I nominate Heidi Bukovich.
Anyone else? Hearing no other nominations, Heidi Bukovich is elected by unanimous consent. At this time, I will entertain a motion for treasurer.
I'll nominate Steve Legal for treasurer.
Anyone else? Hearing no other nominations, Steve Legal is elected by unanimous consent. At this time, we need to designate the official depositories for the upcoming school year. These are the official public depositories for the Pulaski Community School District would be Premier Community Bank and the Local Government Investment Pool. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. At this time, we need to elect the WASB correspondents.
I nominate Heidi
Bukovich? Heidi, are you willing to do so? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Is there a nomination for CSIS 7 representative?
Do we know who it was?
Currently, it's Dennis.
I think it was me, but not too much.
I nominate Jen Schwartz.
Jennifer, are you sure? All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. At this time, we need to set the regular board meeting dates. These are generally the first and third Wednesdays of the month, starting at 6 p.m. There are some exceptions noted, which will be in July, where we'll change that due to the 4th of July and a legal conference. January due to the WASB State Convention. April due to spring break and the Golden Apple Awards, and May due to the staff recognition banquets. Is there a motion to approve the regular board meeting dates for the 25-26 school year?
Make a motion to approve the meeting dates.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the date and time of the Board of Education meetings for 25-26 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. At this time, we'll have our first citizens forum. Is anybody set to speak?
Yes, we have one, Ashley Envoy.
Ashley, can you just state your name and your address? You can stay where you are.
Ashley Ambling, 4555 Deer Ridge Lane, Pulaski, Wisconsin. I do have copies of my speech if
You can give them to Dana.
All right, good evening. I'm here tonight to make you aware of some information that was presented to you that is untrue. As you heard last week, I am being transferred to Hillcrest to be the teacher of the all-day 4K program. I want you to know first and foremost that I am being forced into this position. It was stated last week that when making a staffing decision for a school, quote, "We always give the building to make placements first," unquote. This is untrue. There were internal staff members at Hillcrest who wanted to transition to that position I'm being forced into, but were not allowed. They also posted the position externally and had an abundance of people apply, including 9 before we were even told that our positions were changing. To give you some background, I have been a part-time 4K teacher at Sunnyside for 7 years. There have been 3 half-day sections of 4K at Sunnyside for 12 plus years, and there will still be 3 half-day sections at Sunnyside next year. Of the reasons they gave you last week for making staffing changes, none of them apply to our situation. They may state that our numbers are low now, but they were low at the same time last year, and currently all 3 of us at Sunnyside have full classrooms of 18 to 20 students. Therefore, we do not have to go down a section, and changing our roles is unnecessary. You were also told that contribution to the district is a factor in deciding which teacher to move out of their current role. Quite a few people in this room know me and know how very involved I am at Sunnyside and the community. I have been Sunnyside's PTO president for 5 years and the reading incentive coordinator for the last 7 years, bringing in almost $17,000 this year for the PTO. I made it very clear from the beginning that I am unable to do these roles for our school and students. I'm able due to my part-time position. Unfortunately, this was not of importance or considered when deciding to force me into the Hillcrest position. When asked why they were making these changes, we were told 5 different reasons. 1, if we were full-time staff members, it would be, quote, easier to join all the meetings, unquote. This is a moot point. We are required to attend regardless, as is stated in our handbook, and there is still 1 part-time person who we will have to adjust around. I have been attending meetings that were required for me the last 10 years in the district, including all professional development and meetings that are outside of my contracted hours and that I therefore do not get paid for. Therefore, this doesn't apply. We would be, quote, be more cohesive with the other 4K programs and then really just aligning it in the same fashion as the other 4K programs, unquote. Since we're all in different buildings and only meet together on Fridays, this doesn't make sense. Yes, we would be full-time, but that just means it is consistent on paper. It does not make me a better teacher or make our 4K team stronger. It sounds more like they want to take our strong, close-knit, well-educated Sunnyside team and split us apart, making us less cohesive. Our program will be our program will be, quote, full day 4K eventually, and this is the perfect scenario because you don't have to leave your actual role, end quote. If our district goal is to move to all-day 4K, then eventually all 3 of us will be needed at Sunnyside. This also will not occur at Sunnyside for at least a couple years, so again, does not apply to why they are making this change now. Also, I do have to leave my actual role in addition to moving to a different building. I was very honest from the beginning that I am unable to work full-time without putting my job ahead of my family, which I am unwilling to do. Is there a timer? Because I timed myself and 3 minutes is up.
I'm talking. No, it's 4 minutes.
Just 4 minutes, okay. There will be, quote, better cohesiveness when we have teachers in both the morning section and afternoon section. This definition of cohesiveness in the workplace is the degree to which team members are united and connected, sharing a common goal and working together effectively. It's characterized by mutual trust, respect, and a sense of belonging, fostering a supportive environment where individuals feel valued and motivated. If this decision is tearing apart a strong collaborative team, how is that helping us feel united and connected? If I stated that forcing me to go full-time and move to a completely different school would cause me to have to resign from my PTO and reading incentives roles, as well as place my children in before-school care for a minimum of 1.5 hours every day, how is that making me feel a sense of belonging, respect, and value? I'm sure they meant cohesiveness between my teaching, but after 7 years, I'm pretty confident in supplying my students with high-quality education, which my educator effectiveness scores will show. Being able to consistently collaborate with my other part-time team members to promote effective learning and not putting my job ahead of my family makes me a better cohesive teacher. And I will finish later.
Thank you. Anyone else? Moving on to the consent agenda. Hearing no objections, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Next thing on the agenda is the PHS Booster Club donation. Anyone to speak on that?
That was your cue, man. Please help me welcome Mr. Jeff Momartz, President of the Music Boosters. All right, thank you. So yes, I'm Jeff Momartz, President of the Music Boosters. I'm joined today by Mindy Melendi, our current treasurer and future vice president. So thank you, Mindy, for joining me today. So I appreciate the recognition tonight. I just want to say, as a booster, we're happy to do these things. Right? This is what we're here for: supporting the music program, not just band but choir as well. And I'd like to thank the administration and the school board for supporting the music program over the years. All right, so this particular spend on the shells, acoustic shells, sorry, I have zero music knowledge. How I became president of the Music Boosters is beyond me. Acoustic shells will help like the jazz, the choir, the band. So it's just a great addition to the music program. So thank you, administration. Thank you, board, for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to field trips. The first field trip I have is the PHS FFA to Madison.
Okay, excellent. So Ms. Barron is not able to be here tonight due to a conflict, but she sent me some notes that she would like me to share with the board. So that's okay, I'm just going to read through this. So this is a trip, it's the Wisconsin State FFA Convention. It's June 9th through the 12th. It'll be in Madison at the Alliant Energy Center. Each advisor will take a van with students. And Purvis Taylor Morashik will retire her year of service to Wisconsin FFA. Students will be recognized on stage for their proficiency awards, a Washington Leadership Conference Scholarship winner. 2 of our members were selected to perform in the State FFA Honors Band and Chorus, and administrators will be recognized by Taylor on stage. Members will attend workshops and watch contests. The cost is $50 to FFA members. If they need assistance with paying to attend the Pulaski FFA alumni and supporters have funds available to help. There will be 10 students from the Pulaski High School FFA attending.
I make a motion to approve the Pulaski FFA to Madison.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the Madison trip as presented. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Are we sticking with you for the PHS FFA to Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so this one's to Washington, D.C. for the Washington Leadership Conference, July 7th through the 13th. We'll be staying at the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C. The travel plans, and I've talked with Jenny about this, and this is pretty traditional. The O'Connell Falls FFA alumni runs a bus for the Wisconsin FFA members who would like to attend. They'll be chaperoned by 2 Wisconsin AIG teachers. One is Walter Taylor from O'Connell Falls, and also a female chaperone to be determined at this time. Members will get to tour museums and monuments in Washington, D.C., as well as create a Living to Serve plan, which is a local service project plan for the community. This is facilitated by some of the best FFA facilitators in the country. And she noted that the trip has already been paid for and is sponsored by the Pulaski FFA alumni. Jenna Posbrake earned a WLC scholarship from the FFA alumni, which will reimburse the Pulaski FFA alumni, and students attending are Jenna and Dave Posbrake. Great opportunity for them.
I'll make a motion to approve the FFA trip to Washington, D.C. as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the Washington, D.C. trip as presented. Any other question or comment?
I do.
Okay.
There's no Pulaski chaperone going on this trip. It's just the O'Connell Falls to.
No, and that's why I spoke to Jenny about it, but that's been the traditional part, is we have sent people in the past, and other schools have chaperones going. So.
We used to run the bus. It just kind of rotates between an advisor that's interested in doing it, but Caleb used to run it years ago as well, and then I ran it when we didn't, so it was anybody in the state kind of hopped on the bus. And really when they get out there, the advisors they take the advisors and the advisors go do a different program, and then the trainers are with the kids and they facilitate it, and it's an amazing experience, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next field trip is the PHS Lions Club to Rochelle.
Awesome. Dory Rattler from the Special Ed Department of Pulaski High School is here to speak to that.
Yeah. So this year is our 22nd trip heading there. It's been a Pulaski tradition for that long, so that's pretty impressive. This year we'll have 24 students within the ID and autism program attending overnight from May 15th to May 16th. It's funded fully through the Pulaski Lions Club, so if you know anyone in that, send a big thank you their way. We have 5 teachers chaperoning and volunteering their time to spend overnight there with the students, so it'll be a good experience.
I make a motion to approve PHS Lions Club to Rochelle.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the Rochelle trip as presented. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Have fun. Next is the 5-year library long-range plan.
All right, tonight we are bringing forth a required 3-year library plan for approval. The library media and digital literacy specialist team is here tonight, and they're going to do a short presentation giving you an overview of the plan and showing you the great work that they do with their students and staff to carry that plan out. To access our plan in its entirety, you have that in the library plan memo, which is 04A, and there's a link there to the full plan. So I am going to turn it over to this team.
Hi, everybody. So we are the library team. There's 8 of us plus Amy, and so we're just going to quickly go around and introduce ourselves, and then we'll go through and talk to you about what makes us us and what our jobs are. We'll just go around. Okay, I'm Jackie Markowski. I am the digital learning specialist at Hillcrest Elementary.
Jackie Heisman, digital learning specialist at Linoy Elementary.
I'm Sarah Hansen. I'm a dual role. I'm the digital learning specialist and our student center coach at Fairview.
Lindsay Shortner, the digital learning specialist at PCSD.
I didn't see that. You're taking Jody Fidel, I'm the library media specialist at the middle school and high school.
Amy G. I'm the library media specialist at Sunnyside.
And I'm Sarah Melko. I'm the digital learning specialist at Glenbrook.
And Michaela is at home with the baby. So she's also at school. So today we're going to talk about what we do, why we have to have a library plan, how our libraries get funded, and what our focus areas for our library plan are. And before we do that, we just want to give you a little taste of what we do in our libraries. If our shirts say my brain has too many tabs open if you can't read them. And so our jobs are multifaceted. We do lots of things, and so this little short clip will kind of just give you a lens into what we do.
as Jackie said, if I can get us to scoot forward, one too far, sorry. As Jackie said, our positions really are multifaceted, and so just to kind of give you a quick overview of what we do as you look at this slide, really some of the major focuses within our positions are to help all students discover and develop their passions, whether that be books, coding, media, technology, and you saw a little bit of all of that in the video that we just showed. We also help to guide students in navigating within the digital world in a responsible way. We're supporting staff at all levels in technology integration, whether it be new teachers, veteran teachers, and even our admin. We also work to curate library collections that reflect the diversity of our community, and we serve as a multifunctional hub for library services, technology and professional development, and then we also provide access to emerging technology and resources for exploration and checkout. So that's kind of like the big overview. But with that, as we break it down a little bit further, we wear many hats within our positions. And as you look at this graphic, the majority of our position is library and library admin. And you can see just a variety of the different things that we do within that realm of our position, whether that's in, assisting students in our library. At the elementary level, it's doing kindergarten library lessons or library lessons for K-5. At all of our levels, it's digital citizenship curriculum, promoting that level of reading, obviously, and also coordinating with our library paras. And that's a big piece of the library and the library admin. That being said, we also have the hat of coaching and technology integration, and you can see there some of the multifaceted pieces that fall within that category, whether it be doing professional development for our staff through breakfast bites at the elementary level. High school and middle school have PD opportunities that they also provide. We do mini coaching cycles with our teachers. We're working to integrate the 4 C's within all of our content areas and collaborating with our teachers to bring those things to the forefront of learning. And we're also promoting and modeling technology, whether it's apps, processes, tools, etc. Another hat that we also wear is tech support, and that one, although it's not a large piece, we find ourselves really delving into that on a daily basis, whether that be Seesaw or Canvas support, depending on the level that we are at. iPad management, troubleshooting, stylus management, we're managing the resources that go in and out of our library, etc. So a lot of pieces from that tech support piece that we also work with in conjunction with our technology department and our building technicians. And then last, we're also working on building a technology culture within our buildings, whether that be media production, like you saw in the video clip as well with live announcements and such. We're meeting with our principals and also working through special events such as our artists in residence, having authors into our schools, working on reading programs and things of that nature. So that just kind of gives you a quick overview of some of the pieces that fall within the plan of what our positions entail. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Amy G.
Right. Okay. So why? Why do we need a library plan? Well, Wisconsin Administrative Code requires us to have a long-term written plan on file, which is created by a group of stakeholders and approved by you, the school board. Our long-range library plan helps our district to look ahead and make smart decisions about our future needs. It helps keep us focused on supporting staff and students and their success. It guides how we use resources for curriculum and other priorities. Our plan also connects our goals, our library goals, with district-wide learning goals. So it makes those connect together. And then we make sure we're all working in the same direction for our staff and students. Additionally, we have to meet audit requirements, and any purchases made with our common school funds must align with the plan.
There we go. Our libraries are funded by common school funds, so that is state funding, which may be some new information to you. The money originally came from the sale of lands in Wisconsin, and from that time they invested it really well, and that money grows every year with fines and forfeitures. And so state funding is what funds all K-12 school libraries. That money needs to be used for specific purposes. It needs to be used to develop lifelong readers, as well as support learning through our library programs. So some of the things that they talked about we can purchase through common school funds, like books and ebooks and software subscriptions and resources for makerspace for kids to create, and hardware and devices. So those are some of the things that we're able to purchase with Common School funds. Those funds are managed by the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands, and they do an awesome job in investing. In the last 6 years, Common School funds have doubled, and it's given to school districts on a per pupil basis. So just wanted to give you a little history on Common School funds and how our libraries are funded.
Okay, so our first focus area is in the area of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So one of our goals is that we will continue to enhance digital learning opportunities for students and teachers. And we'll do that by fostering a culture of collaboration amongst our team and with educators and administrators at both the building and the district levels. And then that'll be evident by our unit plans that we'll be creating an ELA math and one specialist area that basically have specific technology skills integrated as part of our building goals. So what that would look like in terms of like our action steps over the next few years is using the standards crosswalks. So taking, for example, a standard in social studies, taking a standard that's part of our information and technology standards, merging them kind of together and creating technology activities that students would be meeting both content area standards with that activity. We also monthly share as a team our ideals, so what they're doing at Sunnyside will be shared with what they're doing at Fairview, so that we can, share ideals that we are doing amongst the different buildings to help promote equity across our elementary buildings as well. We're creating choice boards for K-5 with tech integration choices for the HMH modules, which are literacy curriculum that we use. And so the ideal would be that on these choice boards, students would be able to choose what digital product they want to use to show their learning. And then we also are creating a plan to share technology integration strategies with teachers and document that the current 4C skills integration with HMH units as well. So again, just making sure that we're meeting our goals for supporting the HMH units and using technology and the 4Cs as well. So these action steps will allow students more choice in their use of technology for learning. It'll enhance their engagement, which will help support building goals as well and lead to their success, as well as facilitate the purposeful integration of technology. So again, we're not just integrating it for technology's sake, but that we're using our standards to guide how technology is being integrated into the curriculum.
Our next one is collaborative leadership. And our team is really aiming to foster that culture where collaboration really drives our growth through teacher empowerment, student-centered learning. So we have three steps laid out for the next 3 years. Our first one, our team is working with a coaching consultant to enhance our coaching practices, to ensure that we're really fostering that collaborative environment, and that's directly supporting and then engaging our teachers, our students, and it really offers that strong reflective practices for our team as well as when we're co-teaching with teachers in the classroom, K-12. Next, we're looking at members of our team are also working side by side with our district student-centered coaches within their buildings currently and then moving forward. This can look different depending on what the teacher's goal is, but it can include sitting in our planning meetings, co-teaching in the classrooms, and then really modeling and sharing some of the best practices to assist in that real-time instructional adjustments with the use of technology. And then as we grow and kind of learn through this new coaching lens that we're taking on the next year here, we recognize that our coaching framework needed to be adapted a little bit to kind of meet the unique needs of the digital learning specialist team as well as the library team. So we're kind of continuing to build and edit a mini coaching cycle framework, which is really just a way for us to capture our work with the classroom teacher and how it's supporting students within the classroom. And then lastly, our team will support teachers in identifying the level of integration of the International Technology Literacy Standards, kind of what Jackie touched on within their specific content areas, and that again is K-12. We're focusing on practical ways teachers can enhance their instruction by ensuring these standards align with curricular goals and student needs, so similar to what Jackie touched on. And really, through these steps we have laid out, our goal is really to create that strong culture of collaborative leadership. So teachers, student-centered coaches within every building, our DLS, LMS team, and then students are working as really co-creators of their learning environment. We're working for them to value that growth, that innovation, that integration of our district 4Cs through this collaborative leadership wedge.
And then our last area is digital citizenship. So really the focus area of data and privacy. When we look at this goal, our action steps are a little more straightforward. We're looking to really create a K through 12 scope and sequence of our digital literacy skills, and through that process assess the scope and sequence for gaps and redundancies or missing skills. We'll work with our SROs and our counselors as well who deliver some of these lessons, so we want to make sure that we're not overlapping or how we're hitting it. So through this process, the goal would be to empower students with the essential digital literacy and citizenship skills needed to navigate our ever-changing and becoming more digital world. So by establishing a clear K through 12 scope and sequence, we'll ensure that students receive consistent and developmentally appropriate instruction, minimizing the gaps and redundancies between our programs. So the main goal, the structured approach, will allow our students to have the skills that are necessary for them to be academically successful, responsible digital engagement, and then be future career ready.
So for the library plan, there are 9 wedges. We need to analyze our program amongst those 9 wedges. And so if you go to that link, you will have seen those 9 wedges. And then we did an analysis of our current programming within each of those, and then assessed where we felt we had the 3 greatest areas to grow. And those were the 3 goals that they just shared with you. So we would be happy to take any questions. Otherwise, we are asking for your approval of the plan so we can move forward.
I have a couple questions, Amy.
Yeah.
Are a lot of print books moving to digital now, or is it still pretty much heavy print?
I would say that the large majority of our collections are print. I'll let them speak in a moment. We see a great value in ebooks. We've tried to do many things over the years to try to build those collections. They're not really taking off, especially at the elementary level. We find that kids still really like to get that print book. Anybody else wants to share on that topic?
Yeah, I would say that, especially at the elementary level, the kids still love to take books with them. So we're constantly increasing our collection there. With elementary students not being able to take their iPads home, they don't all have the ability to read ebooks at home. So we want to make sure they still have access to materials that they can take with them. So we do, like Amy said, we do use some ebooks within our curriculum, or we encourage things when more than one kid needs a book and we can get multiple copies on ebooks, we'll do that. But I would say especially at the elementary level, it's primarily print materials.
Okay. It's the same at the high school and middle school too. The kids just, even though they have the iPads, they would rather have that book in their hand.
Okay. So then the selection process. So do all of our elementary schools have the same books, or do we move them around buildings? Do you understand the question? So if you have book 1 at Sunnyside, do all the elementary schools have the same exact book?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think it's very dependent on our kids and what the kids at our individual schools are reading. A lot of what we have is similar.
Okay.
If we find a good series that the kids are loving, we share that with each other, and we get more of those books. But there are certain kids that just ask us for, I really want a book about this, and then we look and we do some research and try to build that collection for the students.
Piggybacking off of that, we also have a spreadsheet that we use amongst buildings where if there is a book that a student is requesting and I don't have it at my library, but Jackie has it at her library, I can request it, they send it over, and our students have access to it. So we may not have that specific book in our building, but we have access to share with each other from building to building.
Okay. And then I have, a 2-part but final question. This is around book selection. So do we consult with other districts on what they're doing? And then how do we find out about books? Like if there's a book out there, do you guys get like a list and you just pick from it type of thing? Like Scholastic bestsellers or something?
We have access, to our book vendor who they recommend books. We go to sites like Barnes & Noble and Amazon and see what's the most popular out there as well. We have School Library Journal, which is a online resource where they give us reviews for different books so we can get ideas of how, what's popular and what they're about. We just have conversations with our students. We find out what they're interested in reading. We talk amongst ourselves in our group and our team. We listen to our own kids and we hear what they're reading. And then we make decisions based off of what we've learned about books as to whether or not they're appropriate for our libraries.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess Steve covered like hard copy. Do all the kids have the same access to all of the technology at every school?
Yes.
So regardless of what school they're in, they have the same resources?
Yes.
Awesome.
And that's kudos to our school district for feeling that that's important enough that we do that. The value is there. So as part of our monthly meetings, we do have those conversations.
And sometimes we'll have teachers request apps for, they want to use it in their classroom. And we've always taken the approach of if it's really good for Tracy Wiedemann's class in that grade level, it's good for all across the district. So we've really taken that approach on let's adapt, check it out, make sure it's appropriate for that grade level, and then let's adopt it for all.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year library long-range plan as presented.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the 5-year library plan as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is the annual parochial private school attendance area.
Yeah, so this comes annually. I want to highlight a couple of things that have changed, but a little background on it. So there is a Wisconsin court case that established that a public school district is responsible for the transportation of its residents to their parochial or private schools. Part of that, so then state statutes have been developed for how we manage the process. At this stage, what we're doing is establishing boundaries. So this has nothing to do with attendance areas for their who attends their schools. This is purely for our transportation. So we don't dictate who attends what private school or where. What we dictate is our responsibility for transporting those students. Provided is the schools that fall within this area. Want to highlight any changes. So there's one new private school, and that is the Highlands Latin Cottage School. I worked with them this year. They reached out to us, established that they are a school, that they're very small. They are not a daily school. I believe they have 3 students attending. Their attendance area, because of covers the whole area, but it's a very small impact to ours. They will have the boundaries of the entire school district. The other change is for Holy Family, St. John the Baptist, and ABVM. ABVM, nothing will really change. We're just establishing that the area of Hobart will go to. So all 3 of those fall under the same governing body and denomination. So that's why they can't have overlapping areas per state statutes. Doesn't impact ABVM. ABVM, falls within our village transportation. So if kids live here, they walk just like a Glenbrook student would. And there's currently nobody attending in that area. They go to the other 2 schools. So Holy Family and St. John the Baptist did not submit. I reached out to them. They did not respond to establishing boundaries. I asked them to establish boundaries and split Hobart. I referenced a map that we have. I believe it's from 2011 was the last time that we asked them to do this exercise. Since then, we've become more lax on it, and we transport all students. What we're currently dealing with is low numbers of transportation. So we, on some days we take 7 students to one school and 11 to the other. Establishing boundaries will allow us to evaluate if it's cost effective for us to continue to bus the students or to meet our obligation through a parent contract. So most other schools it's not cost effective for us to drive to Bonneville, so we pay those students a parent contract equal to the amount it costs for us to transport one of our pupils. So every year I come up with that amount. This year it's about $720. We pay that per student to the family to meet our obligation per law. What we're gonna sit down and do is currently Providence, we have 46 parent contracts. So we really need to evaluate busing and offering busing for parents who are requesting it. We pay out a large sum when we can meet that obligation through busing. Granted that we have drivers and whatnot. So this will just establish those transportation areas so that we can evaluate it. Either way, if we change anything or not, this has to be done. So that is coming to the board for approval tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual parochial private school attendance areas as presented.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the parochial private attendance areas as presented. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Abstain. Oh, and with one abstention. Moving on to the 25-26 school year calendar.
I put a memo for you in Bob's, and you can refer to that as well as Dana's insert of the actual calendar. I know we brought this calendar to you a couple times this year, and I keep asking you to relook at it and be responsive, so I appreciate you being responsive with me to this calendar. I am wanting to have a conversation and our recommendations for a couple tweaks tonight. I want to give you some history behind our tweaks. First off, I want to remind the board that we have a 188-day contract with our staff, with our teaching staff. So those days have to be, if we move anything around in the calendar, it either makes the school year longer or we have to shorten something within. And to build this calendar, we have met with our calendar committee, which has kind of been off the market here for a few years due to construction and the referendum. But we also work with another subcommittee, which is around professional development and learning. And they do a survey to kind of help form what does this look like in the year for learning for staff? Like what is the feedback you're giving us? What would you like more of? What went great? Where do we need to grow? And when we did that survey, some of the pieces that were within, and also just being out in buildings and hearing candid feedback from staff members, we decided to try to be responsive immediately for this upcoming year instead of waiting another year and then trying to put this into the 26-27 calendar. So because of that, as you already know, this year we had come to you for this year's calendar. We came to you and we asked you about could we put in a day for our lower elementary teachers to work on PRP, their reading plans as part of the Act 20. So we went ahead and you were responsive to that. We made that change. So in this next calendar, we already had it approved to have that in there. But then we have been getting some feedback around, family engagement has kind of been this ongoing conversation. Is it worth it? Do we have enough people? Everyone has a different way that they're looking at it. Is 50% attendance at family engagement night worth it to put the extra energy and into the evening? Is it not worth it? So we've landed that we have a school that really does this very, very well, and we're going to have Fairview is going to continue with their APTT. We are going to compensate that building because they do it well, but then because we're looking at making a change within the calendar, we're not going to hold family engagement in this sense of how we did it in the other buildings. Well, there will still be family engagement, of course. I'm not saying that there won't be, but it will just be in different ways, and we're going to give that autonomy to the building leaders to create those events and things around that with their buildings, however they see fit. Because of that offered us the time that those 2 evenings offered us a day that we could put back in the calendar. So down on the bottom of that memo, for the K-5 and 612, you see that there's two different numbers. K-5 has 173 student contact days and 612 is 174. The reason elementary has one less is simply because of the Act 20 day that we have scheduled. We are now looking at taking January 2nd, which in the calendar that you already approved was an extension of the Christmas holiday and did appear as just, an extra day that all staff would have off. We have talked with both the Professional Development Learning Committee and we have also talked with the Calendar Committee and our administrative team, and we'd like to take that day and make it be flexible. No one has to come into the district. They can just do those 8 hours when they see fit, and remove it as what it would have been kind of as an extension of the holiday, and just put it as a flexible work day. That way we can count it in the calendar, and we're not having to add a day onto the end of the year. And the reason we're able to do that day is simply because of the 2 family engagement nights. And then the other day that we're looking at is March 2nd, and that would be a day that we would add in for a work day for staff, because we're hearing that is a need, and that's something that they have been asking for more of. So that collaborative work day, will work just on site, but that's another day that they will have that they can work on their own. This day would replace a student contact day, so that's why we have one less day that will be in front of students, and it would be one more day that staff would have to do as work time. And as you know, we just came out of our planned snow day, and if we have a relaxed year in weather next year, that could also be a possibility. I think it went over well. We had a few students are saying yes, it went well. So I think that that could also be a possibility if we continue to have weather that cooperates with us, and we can look at our calendar and see how things are going. But that day is always going to be a day that is going to come up quickly, and it's not going to be something that would ever be put in at the beginning of the year, just simply because of we don't know what we have outside. Okay, I don't think I missed anything. Do you have any questions around where those days are coming from? This is still allowing us to have that calendar, start and end the same. I just wanted you to know the reasoning why we are making those changes now, and we're trying to be very responsive and listen. And one of the things that came out when we were we talked with the Professional Development and Learning Committee was just the fact that most people are working at some point in time over their Christmas break anyway on school stuff, because we have stuff to do, and now we just can do it whenever, and they really felt that was a good way to do it. So, any questions for me on that? Yeah.
Is there a cost with the APTT just keeping it at Fairview? What does it cost us to keep it at that one school?
Well, Nikki's our trainer.
Is it already
so,
paid, right?
Yeah, we don't have an external trainer doing that. It would just be the time that the teachers
Is there an annual
will be spending.
fee for APTT, or has that already been?
No, she's paid for it.
It's paid for.
Okay.
But it's to pay the staff to put in that time.
Yeah, to put in that time, and it's very valuable to them, and and it's very valuable to the families.
I know that's her
So,
passion or program. So. Okay.
So.
Is there any update as to the beginning of the school year for the 2 schools under construction?
In Nick's words, we will be starting on time.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So it's saying that he has said that to me many times. We will be starting on time. So that's where we're at. Any other questions about the calendar? The change, everything else is the same. Just wanted you to be aware of those 2 things that we're recommending that you change and reapprove tonight.
Make a motion to approve the calendar changes.
A second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the updated 25-26 calendar as presented. Any other question or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to policy 5411, the 3rd grade promotion and retention of at-risk students for Act 20.
All right, so with Act 20, part of that legislation was that in addition to the policy, or an additional policy needs to be added that focus just on third grade promotion and retention based on Act 20 requirements. And so this is a brand new policy. The DPI came out with a sample policy and what needed to be in it, and then Neola also then created their policy. And so Rhoda, the elementary principals, and I have looked through this. We compared, so Rhoda and I sat down kind of and compared the DPI sample with what Neola came up with, and we made a few tweaks. So anything that you see that is pink in here were things that either were editing notes that they put in, so you might see them crossed off because it's more of a drafting note. But then anything in red is something that we might have lined item out, and then we might have changed with the green. So one of the things that the DPI really emphasizes the research behind retention and why it's not a best practice, even if a reading plan hasn't been accomplished, or in any case. And so we know that retention, according to John Hattie, who has what he basically does is he collates all of this research out there, all of these studies, and so it might be 800 studies specifically on something, and then he comes up with an effect size. And if it's a 0.4 or higher, it tends, for every 0.4, it tends to be 1 year of growth or more. So if it's a 0.8 effect size, it tells us that probably will get 2 years of growth. If it's a 1.2, it's probably 3 years of growth and on. Retention happens to be the lowest, and it's a negative effect size. So I think the last time I looked, it used to be a negative 0.16, and now it's even dropped down to, I think, a negative 0.32. So it even doubled in that effect. So really the DPI in their sample policy really talked about retention isn't the best option, but in some cases it does happen. And so when Rhoda and I looked at this and then we presented it to the principals, you'll notice that we even changed some of the verbiage. Like they talk about promote, we might have put retain in a certain place. That like we didn't want it to be assumed that, we didn't want the negative connotation that a fourth grader is being retained in third grade. We wanted to take a positive focus on it, that no, all of our students are being promoted unless certain things happen. Then we look at retention. So that's why you might look at this and be like, well, why'd you cross off promote and why'd you put retain? It's just based on how we viewed it, based on the research of really not wanting to retain and having a focus on promotion. So that's some of the initial tweaks that you'll have. If you see full sentences, that's really more of either something like this, the process will carefully consider all relevant factors, that sentence. We actually took that right from the DPI sample policy. It wasn't in this one. We felt it was an important one and we put it in here. Some of the other ones, like we spelled it out, what do you mean by school representation and who should be included in that meeting when we're talking about retention of a student is, and we said like our learning support teacher if they're providing reading support, a special ed teacher if the student has a case manager, the district reading specialist, etc. So we just wanted to spell that out a little bit more for our district. We then spelled out for B a little bit more about what is available data and relevant data. So we talked about the universal screener, the diagnostic assessments, any of their progress monitoring data, classroom data and observations being a part of that. And one of the things that was in the state sample policy was that next green line, that the district and school will not deny any student advancement to fourth grade based solely just on the third grade forward exam reading score. That was in there, but it wasn't in this policy, and we thought it was an important part. E, we just moved to the bottom. It didn't make sense that if you talk about any other factors, wouldn't that come at the end of that list? So we just dropped it down to the bottom. Again, we talked about the how important it is rather than just the potential long-term adverse risk of retention. This was in the state sample policy about representatives from the school and district communicating long-term risk of retention to the student's parent and caregiver. We also then added in about parent or caregiver must give written consent to retain, so that we just don't make the decision and there wasn't a signature from the parent saying it. And then just a few grammar things that we wanted to do. So basically, this has to be approved and in place by July 1st in every district in the state of Wisconsin, but it doesn't go into effect until September 1st of 2027 with that class that is entering as grade 4 students. I don't know why. It's just, it was their editing note and it's what the policy says. So it doesn't make sense why we're approving it now and doesn't go into effect until 2027, but it is what it is. Any questions?
So basically, right now, any student in 2nd or 3rd grade, this wouldn't necessarily apply to them, this specific policy about retention.
Right. Correct. So say a 3rd grader this year does not complete, and I think it gives a definition of what a completed PRP is, we would not be falling under this policy and having to retain them. One thing that we will, state law says that parents can opt their children out of 4th, 8th, and 10th grade assessments. However, we have always allowed that for 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And 9th grade, I guess. Based on this though, and some meetings that we've been in, now we would not, in the future, this year we still allowed it because we did have a few opt-outs. We would not allow it, just like on the screener and the universal screener, the state doesn't allow opt-outs. We wouldn't in that case either because that's a determining factor for whether they're retained or promoted.
Will that start in 27?
We would use it with the 3rd grade class of 2027, correct. Well, and we've even talked about next year because we would want that data as well. That I guess, yes, technically we would start it with next year's class of not allowing opt-outs in 3rd grade.
I know you talked briefly about the negative impact that can have on a student. I mean, thinking of a 3rd grader not getting promoted to 4th grade after they've established friends for years. I mean, I understand this is state driven, so this isn't exactly, but thinking of this at an earlier time, like maybe kindergarten, where, you know, they're not gonna remember if they were retained or anything like that. Is that something we might look into as we're, you know, going into Act 20? I know there's no policy towards it, but
We have it on the list, letters to the legislators, that's the only thing we can do, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's really an advocacy piece, and we just keep adding things, because they do keep asking us for feedback on how things are going, so we're hoping that, my hope is that part of the reason why this is really not going to go into place until 27 is because they're allowing us to, let's work out some of the things, but we want you to be prepared in case this is still going to hold. So I hope that there's some flexibility and wiggle in it, because there are many facets of Act 20 that just are not, we're just not able to do what they're expecting. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but they do ask for feedback a lot. And we do, when we're asked for it, Jenny and Rhoda literally have a continued list that we just keep sending. Because I think we're doing a really good job with Act 20, and it's still a lot for us.
right? I know, like I had a discussion with a parent about Act 20, and you know, their daughter is a reader and she reads well and understands what she's reading, but she can't read fast. So like the screener, it's about how many words you can read in a limited amount of time. But to me, again, I know that you're not the one that made it in place.
Right.
Don't we want kids to understand what they're reading, not how fast they can read it? So I guess there's a few flaws in
There
their
are a lot of
system.
things that we don't agree with within Act 20.
Right.
That, you know, in the oral reading fluency, the ORF is one of the things that we are seeing is a struggle for our kids. But then that also can be a strategy that we have to work on as well.
Seems discouraging for some
know.
students, you know, that
Sure does.
feel like they're really good readers and then they're on a plan because they're not speedy readers, you know, so that's.
Is there a motion regarding policy 5411?
I'll make a motion to approve policy 5411 as presented. A lot of words.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve policy 5411 as presented. Any other question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. The personnel report.
So this week we have a new hire, Dwight Green, starting up this next school year as a 8th grade teacher at the middle school. He's coming from Texas with 4 years of experience. We also have promotions. So we have Lindsay moving to lead principal at the high school, and then Amy's promotion to director of information and instructional technology. Allie had sent out emails on both of those. And then we have resignation, Justin at Glenbrook, 3rd grade teacher. Recently had a baby and he accepted a position closer to home.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the personnel report as presented. Any other question or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. March budget report.
Yeah, I do want to take one moment on personnel report in between. So part of Amy's promotion to that position is due to Tina Calward's retirement. Tina does not need your approval to retire, so she's not on the personnel report, but she will be retiring, so we want to recognize that. So I know better, everybody knows Tina, I know better than to try and encapsulate her time here, but I'm going to try to do so anyways. When Tina retires, if she goes home and watches her favorite movie, she would go home and stream that movie. If she would have watched that same favorite movie on her first day in the district, it would have been on VHS. So Tina's career has basically outlasted the movie DVD. Recognizing that, just want to congratulate her and recognize her years of service to the district. So take a moment to do that.
We just made her feel really good.
I didn't say anything about me. Very careful. Technology.
Have you never watched the VHS movie, Mark?
What's that?
You've never watched the VHS movie or a beta?
I have watched the VHS movie. That's why I didn't reference what I was doing on it. Very careful.
You're not sharing what movie it is?
I don't know if they were.
I'll ask.
So,
Just let him.
We wish Tina well.
wish her very well.
And congratulations to Amy and Lindsay. Yes.
Budget report, outside the standard budget report, the board was provided an update. So coming into April here, we're in the budget every day, looking at year end, preparing closing out grants, accruals. We have our pre-audit scheduled in June. So I'll continue to provide updates as we come near. We start looking at budget favorability. That amount shared this week was a $243,000 budget favorability. That offsets that amount planned on the fund balance. That will also impact next year's budget, which will be the next topic. But everything this year, according to budget, has been going smooth. So.
Any questions for Mark on the March budget report? Okay. Any other details on the 25-26 budget update?
No, quick update from what we know going on at the state level for advocacy. I provided the list. Not much has changed on there. We've updated some insurance numbers. We have an estimate in there in salaries as far as CPI and rounding that to a 3%. That's just a placeholder. You received an update today about some next steps we'll be taking on that end. The Joint Finance Committee listening sessions ended this week. Through our organizations, we've had some talking points for them. Next steps would be any individual advocacy that people take on their own towards legislators before they vote on a budget. Again, we do not have a time frame, so we're thinking it's going to be past that July 1st date, but as soon as we know more, we will share more. So the two scenarios I shared are just an updated one. Back to January, we had one scenario of what we knew. On here, scenario one is just what DPI is asking for a funding standpoint of that $375 per pupil. The second scenario that is in play is an increase in low revenue ceiling. Again, the low revenue ceiling level sets all districts. So there are districts, again, we are a low revenue district, meaning that, out of the 420 districts, 250 of us have a bottom amount per pupil, and then throughout the state there are higher amounts. Our ask is that we get that closer to everybody to level the playing field. In doing that, we wipe out that use of fund balance or a deficit. So it would be a great win for us, and it's doable. We can do it with little tax impact. So that's really our main advocacy, along with everything else. Our special ed funding and anything else that comes up throughout this next steps. But as soon as we hear more on the budget, we will share it out. So before July 1st, there will be a formal budget adoption just so we can operate in July. But like I said, it won't be based on factual numbers for what we know now.
Questions for Mark on the 25-26 budget?
Well, it's not really related to that. When is C.D. Smith or Nick coming in for the next update?
I'll provide the budget document. We're meeting tomorrow, so that'll come on. I think by Friday they'll have it to me. So we'll send that out as a board update. For an in-person presentation, I believe we're looking at June.
Okay.
So, but that standard budget document will come out as a budget update.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Moving on to the superintendent update.
Just a couple things. Very current tomorrow, we're kicking off staff appreciation with a luncheon. So I just want to make sure, in the beginning I told you that we would be doing the cooking at the middle school, but we're actually cooking at the high school. So if you're helping out by picking up burgers and traveling out to a school, 10 o'clock, John said that we should arrive about that time. If you can't pick up burgers and haul them to a school, that's fine. Just go to the school and we'll have the food there ready to go. And some of you kind of are traveling around to more than one school, that's fine as well. We'll just kind of make it work however the day needs to flow. Text me in the morning if something comes up and you can't. I think we've got enough district bodies that we're getting everybody at buildings as well. So we're kind of covering with you, along with you. We're going to do our cookout tomorrow, have that happening, and then don't forget next week on May 7th, next Wednesday, is our Years of Service and Retirement Banquet. So we'll get to formally acknowledge Tina and all of our other retirees at that banquet. So that's at D2's. And if you haven't let Dana know, I didn't check in with her yet, but if you still want to join that banquet and you haven't let her know or you have questions about it, just ask her some questions again, even tonight after the meeting. Okay. Let's see. This week is Safety Week. If you were parents and board members, you would have seen some of the skylarks that went out. This week we spent time. We met with our SROs and we talked about what should this week look like, and we came up with a plan that we really needed to practice evacuation completely out of the building. And we talked about this being in a gradual step. We've got 2 buildings in construction mode right now. And then we have never done hauling little kids all the way over to ABVM from Glenbrook. So we did this in a really slow process approach. So we decided that we would take a grade level at a time. They've been walking them down the street and taking them over to the church to make sure that they know where, can you see the tall spires? Can you sit in the pew? Can you be quiet? Can you listen to directions? Do you know where you're going? That sort of thing. So I think it's been going pretty well, right?
Brooke's done an absolutely fantastic job coordinating that. It was nice today. We took 2nd grade over today, and it's nice to know that the universal sign for getting semis to honk their horn is still the same. And I talked with one of the police officers today, and I said, what's funny is every one of the truck drivers had just a huge smile on their face that they had these kids, but they've been doing really, really great. So, yep.
And then the chief and the SROs and that law enforcement's been meeting over at ABVM and kind of helping. And that school, I guess, was a larger scale of like taking our smallest and moving them someplace to practice. All of the buildings are doing some form of variation to talk about what does it look like to evacuate. But when we met with the high school team, and they met with the SROs to decide what type of practice or drill they would do. They practiced it was twofold, so they took them out to Saputo, they cleared the building, took them out to Saputo, put them in the bleachers to see, to practice that, how long would it take, what does that look like, and then once they were there, they talked with the kids, and then they dismissed them to practice what happens if you're at a sporting event and we have weather, how do we clear Saputo and come back to the building, which is where we would have our safe haven. So it was you were part of that today, so how did it go for you?
It went well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Matt's here. We actually even used the drone today as well to kind of take a look at how do they come out, how does it filter into the building, what does that look like as well, to see if there's any congestion or any future planning that we need to do around clearing a building the size of the high school. So middle school, I believe, is tomorrow.
Correct.
And so some of our elementaries are still, working out what they're doing. So it was evacuation practice this week, for the safety week. And I wanted to just remind you too, I believe in June is when we have, is that still the month that you would like us to come, SROs, come and give updates, and if we need to tweak that, but I think June is a good time for us to come to you and let you know how the year went and take a look at how things have adjusted since the last time we met with you, okay? This weekend, I'm just putting in a shameless plug for Mark Hack. He gets a little something from us all the time, but this is just really a shout out to PACE. They're always doing great things, but it's going to be recycling here this weekend, so that'll be here in Glenbrook's parking lot. And also, I just wanted to mention that summer school. Mark said this is the first year in a long time where they feel really comfortable with the amount of teachers that they have. And I said, because he said some of our class sessions, our numbers are lower, so we've been able to adjust and move kids around a little bit more. And I said, do we not have as many kids signed up? He's like, no, we've got more kids than ever. It's just that our number of staff is up this year. So that's a wonderful thing, and that also says something about the programming that we offer in the summertime. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Allie? Anybody wish to speak on the second Citizens Forum? Ashley?
We're running out of time. So, I guess I just had that fifth reason left that they gave us for why we had to make that transition to our 4K Sunnyside team this year. So the last one, they stated, quote, when you're part of the all-day atmosphere, there is more of a culture piece. You are tighter with the whole team and staff, end quote. So I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Because I am part-time, I am actually very involved with the teachers in our building, the students, and the families, not only because of my role, but also because of PTO. I am able to substitute teach frequently and spend actual time in classrooms of all the grades in our school and their colleagues and my colleagues and interact with the different teams, which I would not be able to do as a full-time teacher. I'm quickly and easily able to collaborate with kindergarten teachers due to my flexibility, both on my end and theirs when they have questions about students who maybe need different resources. As a part-time teacher, I am constantly interacting with PE, OT, SLP, our student-centered coach, the library media specialist, and I feel very connected to all of our staff and know most of them personally. Being full-time would not give me more time to interact with the rest of the Sunnyside staff. It would just give me even more time in my classroom. So I am very dedicated to my 4K teaching role. I take great pride in my interaction with my students, with my families, the connections I have with my entire staff, the staff at the Sunnyside School, the students in our community, not just at Sunnyside, but because I enjoy being involved in that. And a huge part of that reason that I am so involved in so many other things and get to be coaches for my own children and other people in our district, other students in our district, is because of my part-time role. And a big part of I feel like my presence in the community and in the school and in the district is being taken away from me. And I have come to terms with that. I have accepted that. But my plea to you is to please ask more questions. When you see transitions or resignations come through, reach out to those teachers. Ask them how they're feeling. Ask them what happened. Ask them those questions that will give you a better picture into what is happening behind the scenes. Make a point, please, to ask about the move specifically.
I personally know right now many teachers who are currently afraid to speak up due to retaliation. I am someone who asks questions. If I don't fully understand something, I do research. I get a hold of people who maybe have the information that I need to fully understand a situation. And sometimes that comes across unwanted. Sometimes it comes across as I am being disrespectful because I'm not just accepting what is being told to me. And unfortunately, I have been on the end of that retaliation. And so I am hoping that with this, I don't expect to get my job back because it is done and it's over. But I'm hoping that you will be, from now on, those other teachers who this may happen to, that you can be their voice. Thank you.
Any other individuals wishing to speak? Okay. Our next meeting, just so you're all aware, the staff recognition banquet is May 7th, so we will not be having a meeting that week. Our next meeting is May 21st in this room. At this time on the agenda is years of service and retirement acknowledgement, annual PCSD Children at Risk Plan, and CISA contracts. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everyone.